Writers across the world, when they actually do very machine learning based data analysis, where they approve your loans without any human intervention or any biased approach.
It is happening, sir.
Yes.
We are getting loans in 10 seconds even.
Correct. So there is a lot of algorithms that do that. Yeah, absolutely.
Our next speaker, Mr. Bharatji Kumar, co-founder Team Pumpkin Digital Marketing. Your take on this, sir, please.
I'm Ranjeev from I run a marketing organization about 10 years old. So I've seen at the cusp of everything we have talked. I'll take this 2 minutes, I know. I was in Bihar yesterday and I saw a scene where a woman who may not be even, I guess, educated, semi-educated. Probably the ATM was, I guess, 10 kilometers. I was deep into Bihar and it was about 10 kilometers radius. I don't think any financial institution would have been there, neither a bank nor ATM and so on. And I was actually buying pan for my father. And I went and bought pan for my father. And I saw a woman came and bought a cigarette in Bihar, baby cigarette, whatever you call it. And she paid by UPI. And I was like stunned. So at the intersection, what UPI has done, everyone knows really. On the service side, what I have seen over the last 10 years is possibly the entire chain. We started work with free charge, and at that time there was no UPI. I'm talking about 10, 11 years back, and the problem that the startup was solving about a basic phone recharge, which today we take it for granted. And we don't go. Then the wallet came and so on. Second cusp of the second wave of fintech revolution, which we saw with actually public markets, stock markets. Today, we work with ATM money at about 5-7 years back. You cannot buy a mutual fund without going to a broker. And it was all paperwork and so on. So that has a huge, tremendous income. Public markets are all digital now, and all that happens. The third thing which we have not yet seen is basically how commerce will get enabled by fintech. Today if someone comes to me for building commerce and building business and D2C and stuff, the expectation is that I have to launch in 30 days. Gone are the days that you have all the bells and whistles. So I think the most important time is yet to come. How AI, how fintech as a ONDC and all these are evolving. And I think in the next 10 years, I don't think that this is the path for us to be a superpower, which is financial technologies, because all other global superpowers are financial superpowers. So I think that's the stage and should be the best.
Thank you, Mr.
That is very much correct. To address one of your points that you have mentioned for UPI, that role of UPI in the financial inclusion has been commendable. This is no doubt about it. Now another word which I have experienced in my life, in my current job, that is it is wallet integration, but that relates to cash-based intervention. So fintech needs to work on that cash-based intervention where suppose you are not having any ATM or a bank physical motor built in to have a financial. What is happening in developing world as of now, which I experience because I travel across, so that is point where I am having a bank account, but I can withdraw from any of the this wallets. Cash, I get the cash. So now this economy and the fintechs in the world are doing these cash-based interventions, and the best example to quote is the UN disbursements. Now entire the wars where we are having so many war zones these days, and where this humanitarian aid is done through this fintech through cash-based intervention. So we need to focus on that also.
Yeah, thank you. We can continue our discussion during lunchtime also, because we are short of time. So our eminent speakers have been their insightful inputs in different. We are all from such a diverse field. So we have seen the importance of data, IPR, data protection, AI. So I request our guest of honor, Dr. Sandeep Chatterjee, to provide some final key takeaways and summary of this session, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, many users experience also like that because Government of India now the forming of the DPDP rules, then actually it will be implemented in the country. So these are the inputs are very important. As I mentioned initially in my initial comment, we are studying the Indian market and how the collected data are giving the services. When the data protection rule was not there, it was easier. So what I want to mean that now innovation and R&D should be concentrated on how the data you are collecting, what is the purpose of the data, how limited data you are collecting, and also how you are anonymizing the data so that the breaches are happening, it is not healthy. Of course, due to the growth of UPI and growth of fintech, they are going to the unbanking sector or semi, non-banking population. That is one of the inclusive, growth of the banking. It is going to happen, and this is the fintech can only do that. But with that growth, we will be interested to see how they are growing as a robust companies so that they can capture the global market. Because if you are really interested to grow on economic ladder, you have to see the developed economy. And as last 4-5 decades, we have seen the ICT sectors have grown. So we are interested to see the fintech sector to the next generation of our growth parameters. That will be the our comment from government.
Any quick question from any panel audience also?
Hello.
When we are talking about the financial aspect, why don't we address disputes and the chargebacks? The problem that the number of transactions is growing day by day, and the time will come, this chargebacks and dispute will raise. And the banks, I guess, particularly the PSU banks, they are not capable of handling disputes. Have you ever heard any transaction done on UPI where customer tries to call his bank and then, oh, I just did it by mistake and I want that money back?
So your question is directed to whom?
To anyone who can handle that.
Dr. Chatterjee or Dr. Raghavan, any of you? If you could repeat your question in just brief, one line.
Yes. The question was, what exactly we are talking about under fintech is data protection and every other aspect. But we are talking, why we are not talking about the consumer point of view of transaction disputes and the chargebacks?
Consumer point of view.
Yes.
Yeah. The entire system, the ecosystem, whether it is the connected companies or any online transactions are taking place, the rule is the service provider has to give a solution, online solution, if any dispute occurs between the customer and the person, other side, receiver, because the intermediary is the person who is going, the entity which is going, giving these services. So it is incumbent upon them to provide and clear these disputes within a given time as per the policy of the government of India. If that
would you like to add?
and then that escalates, we can go and approach the regulator to address the issue.
Would you like to add something?
So, I think since I have worked with a lot of fintech firms, it's actually a problem of education. It's not a problem of policy or setup and mechanism. I know at least 2%, one is in the room itself. Fraud happens, and if you, in the process, if you report, you get your money back. So it's not as much about the setup of fintech, but it's more about education. Many people do not know what are the remedial measures, and if you know remedial measures and you take it, most cases that actually stops and you get your money back or charges. Most importantly, what modern fintech has done, it has tremendously cut down the cost of transactions. Like you're saying about chargebacks and so on. So a consumer story. The cost to consumer for a transaction is probably 1/100th of what it was, pre-UPI or pre-fintech era. So it's more of an education problem than, say, a policy problem and so on.
Sorry to add that, but if you go to the UPI handle on Twitter, you will see a lot of complaints from the consumer where they have reported the transactions to the banking partners, where banking partners were not able to give any satisfactory answers to the complaints raised by the consumers. The problem is the lack of education is not for the consumer, rather it's the lack of education for the banking system.
To all stakeholders in the ecosystem.
Yes,
right.
The onus lies upon the banking partner in the fintech industry. It is not a private company who can exactly address the issue of the chargebacks and the disputes.
But there are RBI regulations which all these entities have to follow.
That is exactly what the question is. The 10 years back, when we were having only 100 number of transactions, the same system was there at the place, same number of staffing was there. But now the transaction has increased 50,000 times or 1 lakh times of what we boast of. How infrastructure has grown up in that space for the disputes and the charges.
Thank you very much. I think you raised a very pertinent question, and some of our panelists are rightly saying that this requires, response by all stakeholders.
I'd just love to finish the conversation. I think it's a great opportunity for all the entrepreneurs to start a solution for that and present it to the government. If there is something that most of us are feeling the pinch for, it is a great opportunity to have a startup in the fintech world for that. With that being said, I'll conclude this talk.
Yeah, and in regard to the education you were talking about, it's not the education, it's more about, information. Flow of information is not there nowadays. Even the mainstream media is not using the proper, because digital transformation is taking place in the pace of tsunami, kind of, But there is no information about that except a few media houses which are giving, And these are the issues which are felt by the consumers and all other people. A lot of issues are there while using the, not only fintech, not only the digital transactions, but in other forms also. So I think the policy makers and the decision makers will take note of it, and all stakeholders will have to make some easy solutions for the, ultimately because it's for the consumer. The transparency is also required in that,
Change your banking to government banking. They are much better than private banks in terms of resolution and so on.
Yeah. Thank you. With these words, I would like to hand over to our panelists. She will be closing this session, and then after we will be going for the lunch because it's already 1:30, and the session which was supposed to happen before that, we will be taking just after the lunch. So, with regrets, Dr. Paravinder ji, please.
Thank you everyone, and thank you all eminent speakers for providing your valuable insight for this session. Thank you.
Thank you. And now it's time for the lunch. Let's have lunch together, and then after we'll join.